Goeienaand, good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. And this is a shout out to Joyce. Joyce sends me some really good links, but this one in particular caught my eye. It's an article about the complicit involvement of police in farm attacks in South Africa. And it raises some very, very important issues. Let's get into it. Set against the total number of violent crimes in this country, where murder and shootings are commonplace, globalists will argue that these figures are statistically insignificant. But if you're a baseline of the total population of commercial farmers, targeted attacks on white farmers becomes a crime impossible to ignore. For an expert opinion, Dr. Johan Berger, Senior Research Consultant at the Institute of Security Studies in South Africa, or ISS, stated that he analyzes crime with clinical precision, investigating whether the government of the Republic of South Africa, as an executive organ of the state, has been fulfilling its constitutional obligation to combat crime. Unsurprisingly, his answer is no. Being a white farmer in South Africa is statistically one of the most dangerous jobs on the planet. According to ISS research, there are around 152,000 serving members of the police force and around 32,000 commercial farmers. But the murder rate within these two distinct groups is roughly the same, 145 deaths per 100,000. Dr. Berger's own daughter is a police officer. Judging by his research, he wryly concludes that she is safer fighting criminals than farming crops in this country. But by far the most uncomfortable truth of all is that serving members of the South African police force are complicit in these attacks on farmers in the country. Dr. Berger walks me through countless examples of corrupt activity amongst police officers who have managed to secure politically powerful positions and gone on to appoint their wives, children, and friends to high ranks with huge salaries in the police service. In 2012, a social worker, Ria Fiega, was appointed as the National Commissioner for Police in South Africa. She appointed a trained teacher as her deputy, and her head of strategic management was trained in theology. So you had a social worker, a teacher, and a preacher heading up the police force in one of the most dangerous countries on the planet. And I'm told Fiega's clear instructions were to protect President Zuma and his interests, not the security interests of ordinary citizens. This is just one example of endemic corruption here. Dr. Berger says the racket of placing friends in positions of power is widespread. In his opinion, grassroots police should be given medals for being able to perform at all, with this happening at the top levels of the force. On the ground, a serving sergeant hears of my investigation and agrees to meet if I guarantee his anonymity. We chat in the botanical gardens, empty of people, after a recent spate of criminal attacks. He is clear about the risk to him if he is caught talking to me. I can lose my job. I am not allowed to talk to the media without a police escort, and I fear harassment of myself and my family by elements either inside or outside the government. He genuinely seems afraid, but emboldened by his truths, he has reason to come. He said, "All my life has been about making moral decisions. That's why I'm in the police, to serve, to protect the people, and this government has failed to protect the people. These farm attacks should have been classified a long time ago as terrorism, because that's what they are, terrorism, but the government has done nothing." He worries that at some point things are going to reach a level where no one is going to be able to stop the attacks, and someone needs to stand up and speak out. He reminds me, "I'm taking a great risk to do this, but it is morally right to speak out now about the systematic purging of white minority before it is too late." He confirms my darkest fears alluded to and repeated over and over throughout my journey to understand the purging of whites from South Africa. The police are actively involved. He said, "We have arrested serving members of the police during house robberies. Police weapons have been used in the attacks. Not just personal weapons issued to every officer, but rifles that have to be signed out from the station. We know police ammunition has been used in the farm attacks." I think back to my meeting with a farm attacker who told me all their kit and weapons came from a police insider on the team, who hid any cash stolen in the attack. Time and again, the victims of farm attacks have told me the perpetrators went unpunished, that there were never any charges brought because the evidence was lost or the docket destroyed. Marietta, Robert, Sue, Bernard, all of them told the same story. I asked the sergeant about this loss of evidence and why the dockets are always misplaced at the station or lost in transit. He says dockets are methodically destroyed, either because the police officer knows who the suspects are or the investigating officer is lining his pocket. He tells me about several detectives with 20 to 30 years of experience in investigating crimes who have been fired for selling dockets or deleting them for cash. Age or number of years in the service are no indicators of loyalty. Dr. Berger confirmed this assertion. He refers me to a recent study in 2016, a doctoral thesis on cash and transit robbers, who the author interviewed in prison. These criminals were very clear. For a price, it was easy to buy the cooperation of certain police officers. Services that could be bought included cooperation with the police to obtain rifles, a police safe house in which to store stolen money, the disappearance of police dockets, the investigating officer agreeing to be less than efficient in his investigations. It is devastating to realize that corrupt police are willing to equip farm attackers with arms and ammunition, are willing to conceal stolen cash for their cut, and are willing to circumvent justice for cash. I have sat with victims of these crimes, victims who have called the police for help, knowing it was futile and that help would never come. I think back to my meeting with lovely Marietta, who called for help after being shot at and was told there are no cars available. The sergeant tells me that when a crime in progress is called in, there are routinely 16 or 17 cars out on patrol. He says typically only 2 of them respond. Some claim their radio stopped working, others say they were at lunch. And even when they do respond, they don't make an arrest because the perpetrator is a brother. And brothers are allowed to go free. Being a brother is not about colour, it's about political affiliation. If you're part of the African National Congress, or ANC, Economic Freedom Fighters, or EFF, or Black First Land First, or BLF organizations, you are a brother. He tells me that if he arrests someone with a membership card for the ANC, no one in the station will help him process the arrest. He is on his own. He estimates that nationally EFF members make up 30 to 35% of the police force. He says the ANC and EFF are 2 heads of the same beast. The ANC functions to appease an international audience. The EFF carries out the real political damage to whites at the grassroots level. I've been trying to answer the questions of just how far politics is at play here. Are these farm attacks ordered by a police directive? I have not found firm evidence to support this, but clearly the political climate provides a fertile environment in which farm attacks can flourish. Too many police officers associated with political movements identify with political ideology and try to implement or propagate those views at a grassroots level. At a recent meeting, the ANC declared a policy that land could be taken from white farmers without compensation. This, in turn, has created a frame of reference for officers on the ground, in which they can turn a blind eye when black gangs invade farms or attack the farmers. The argument goes, occupying land can't be wrong because you can't illegally occupy stolen land, and by extension, killing white farmers simply facilitate this transition. Political statements like this, which are made on a regular basis, create a climate that accommodates criminal activity. So when the political group known as Economic Freedom Fighters, or EFF, rally with their protest song "Kill the Boer, Kill the White Man," EFF supporters inside the police force understand that they have a political mandate to disregard, even facilitate, certain crimes, including the butchering of whites. Dr. Berger remembers one black police captain who he claims had a reputation for arresting farmers on a Friday and making them spend the whole weekend in a police cell. He targeted whites as part of an ongoing vendetta against the apartheid era. He likens this abuse of authority to a form of showing off, a demonstration that I'm in control now, not you. I think of the rape of farmers' wives and children. I believe these are prompted by some kind of motivation. Now, I spoke just a couple of weeks ago about how whites are basically arrested for doing nothing by the police, put in a holding cell, and then they bring 20 blacks in and watch why this white person is systematically anally raped by those black criminals. And as a result, invariably, that white person gets HIV/AIDS. This is happening in South Africa today. Willie Jordan, an attorney, has confirmed he's actually represented people who have actually had this happening to them. It's called slow puncture in the prisons. Remember that term, slow puncture. This is where a group of blacks with HIV anally rape someone. It doesn't have to be a white person, but it's part of the prison system. And the police are complicit in allowing this to happen in South Africa to innocent white people. Getting back to the story. Multiple sources, including politicians, serving officers, and informants inside international research centres and across agriculture unions, tell me that South African police force is actively arming and facilitating farm attacks, that the perpetrators of murder, torture, and assault are protected from arrest or prosecution via their political affiliations, and that police officers are paid to turn a blind eye. In England, I tell my children, if you're ever in trouble, you can always trust a policeman. In South Africa, I'll tell them to run very fast the other way. The white farmer will be hunted to extinction, and the only difference between him and the white rhino is that the world doesn't care. And that's exactly the point that I made in a video I posted this evening on the Loving Life 2019 channel, where you can see all the stats of the farm attacks and farm murders that have happened so far this year. It's absolutely appalling. If you aren't linked, or if you're not subscribed to my Loving Life 2019 channel, which is separate to this one, I will put the link directly below. Please subscribe to that, because I put videos up there every day as well. Systematic extermination of the ethnic minority group continues unabated in South Africa by the very people the citizens are supposed to trust. Now, that is the bottom line. It is absolutely horrific what's going on. I mean, we are on the point of beyond extreme persecution. We're actually at the point now where the police are targeting white people. There is a genocide in progress, because you've now got the government departments actively involved in the killing of a specific minority group in the country. So I think we're at the point now where we can actually say, yes, there is a genocide happening against the white population in South Africa. Please remember to subscribe to be kept informed. Ring the bell for the updates. Please like this video. Please share this video. And above all, stay safe.